A quote from Janie Lewis: "We have social responsibility, a constitutional opportunity, and a moral obligation to help others." Hello, everyone. My name is Hallie Morrow. Today, we're going to be discussing the state of ethics and corporate social responsibility in business. We will be talking about ethics, morals, and law, how they are similar and how they differ. In particular, we will be discussing a 2015 scandal and the type of ethical theory it falls under. Another thing that will be covered is how these ethical scandals fade out of our cultural conscience. To start us off, Harvard Business Review states that corporate social justice is a reframing of CSR that centers the focus of any initiative or program on the measurable lived experiences of groups harmed and disadvantaged by society. CSR is a self-regulated framework that has no legal or social obligation for corporations to actually create positive impact for the groups that they support to help. Corporate social justice is a framework regulated by the trust between a company and its employees, customers, shareholders, and the broader community it touches, with the goal of explicitly doing good by all of them. This is something to keep in mind while we go through this presentation, as this is what corporate and social responsibility in business in 2020 should look like. Continuing on the track of definitions, the dictionary states that ethics are moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. They are the social system in which morals are applied. Morals, however, are what define a person. According to the dictionary, morals are a person's standards of behavior or beliefs concerning what is and is not acceptable for them to do. And finally, law, which is a system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties. As you can see, these are all guidelines to right or wrong. Ethics are right or wrong for a company or business, whereas morals are self-given guidelines and the law is a community or government-given guideline. When running a company, producing goods, or being part of the government that controls and runs our country, there should be ethical, moral, and social accountability. There should be a value within the company for society, stakeholders, and balance. It is important to remember that a company itself cannot be unethical, but rather the leaders and creators of the business can stray from the approved ethical behavior. This is what our society relies on when trusting others to make decisions that should benefit our country as a whole. Sometimes, though, choices are made that do not benefit our society, and they are called ethical breaches or scandals. These breaches or scandals result from ethical and moral behavior being abandoned by those in control when no one is watching, or by the company swaying from a values-based culture to a rules-based culture. This means that the company is asking itself, can I legally do this, rather than, is it right if I do this? One ethical breach that affected our public health system of ethical and moral guidelines is the 2015 scandal where pharmaceutical CEO Martin Shkreli raised the price of HIV medicine by 5,000%. This rise in price made one Daraprim pill go from $13.50 to $750 overnight. HIV is dangerous and easily transmitted. It affects about 38,000 Americans a year. The drug costs about $1 to manufacture, according to an article by the Wall Street Journal. This suggests that Big Pharma was making a $749 profit off of one pill. There was no stakeholder interest in this price spike, only shareholder interest. Now, profit is a part of our world. It is what keeps our economy afloat, not to mention our government. But this extreme and outrageous profit had no chance of being viewed as ethical or even understandable. But it is a perfect example of legal versus ethical. Although it is legal to charge this large amount for healthcare, it is unethical to make the price this high for a drug that helps maintain an issue that so prevalently affects the community of the United States. This change in price could be argued to be based purely on profit and to be discriminatory towards those who contract HIV or do not have health insurance and are unable to get Daraprim because of the spike in price. This unethical behavior was acted out by Martin Shkreli as CEO of Turing Medical Practice. According to Kaiser Health News, he was criticized by Congress, various media outlets, and the trade organization Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America. The practice was shamed and the trade group distanced themselves from him. These actions alone show how serious this matter is because the reactions were made by companies or higher-ups that are much bigger than Turing Pharmaceuticals. Shkreli was asked to leave Turing and did. Two interesting things happened after this. 1. Shkreli was later convicted of security fraud and is still serving a 7-year prison sentence. His unethical behavior followed him out of Turing medical practice, which proves the point that a company is only as good or ethical as its leader. Shkreli obviously lacked a sense of high accountability in his high position with large sums of money. The second thing that followed Shkreli's resignation from Turing was that Turing changed their company name to Vieras Pharmaceuticals and did not drop the price in Daraprim. In fact, they wouldn't even comment on the issue when asked by news resources. This also shows the company's lack of accountability, as they blamed the issue solely on one employee rather than their team, as there had to have been steps taken to make this large of a change, especially overnight. Now, this scandal was big news when it first happened in 2015, but it didn't spark any change in our healthcare. After only 1 year, a very similar scandal came out about the price of an EpiPen being raised by 400%. This also heavily affected Americans because the usage of an EpiPen is to help with severe allergic reactions. Again, it can be argued that these decisions were made purely on the need for profit and lacked value for society and balance within the stakeholder and shareholder relationship. This scandal should have fallen under the ethical theory of Rawlsian ethics, where it is fairness and justice for all parties involved. The price of this pill brought household economics into the equation because only the wealthy could afford this high of a price drug. Another thing that prevented this from being a fair matter was that there was no competition for Turing. No one else was selling the drug at a lower cost, so as long as it was being sold, why would they lower it? Business-wise, profit-wise, and corporate-wise, it all made sense. It was legal. But the big takeaway from these two scandals is that they were big news brushed under the rug. At the end of the day, yes, there was an outrage at the price spike in these drugs, but the rage only stayed lit in the individuals that were directly affected by it. As other issues came out, this scandal was slowly forgotten about and left to be dealt with by the consumers alone. The price of Daraprim still remains at $750 a pill. With corporate or social responsibility, there also comes regulation of acts drawn out by these big brand companies, making choices for our planet without really any input from the societal members. We don't vote on most of these acts, rather we vote on the person we trust to draw out these acts that will benefit our country as a whole. After researching through the dictionary, multiple articles by the Wall Street Journal, Kaiser Health News, and Harvard Business Review, I believe to find comfort in the state of ethics and corporate social responsibility in business in 2020 would be to have the trust that decisions made by higher-ups were for the sake of the people, not for the sake of the profit. Corporate has a lot to prove before that trust can be gained and kept. Thank you.